Hi, this is Brenda Cameron, and I'm presenting my analysis of library users and checkouts. I work as the Library Systems Coordinator at a regional public library district that covers more than 4,200 square miles with multiple libraries and bookmobiles. I wanted my study to be something that was useful and would help support the strategic objectives of my library, and something that I could build upon in the future. Data set, I went to our ILS database and I selected records and imported them into Excel for analysis. I also used Tableau to create many of the visualizations. I pulled data from two main transaction files. One, the patron record file. I looked at the date the record was added, the date of the last transaction, the home library, the gender code, and the age group code, and there were nearly 300,000 records in this group. I also pulled data from the items out file, including the patron record key, the transaction or checkout library, whether or not the item was overdue, and the patron's home library, gender code, and age code, and there were more than 160,000 checkout records. I started by looking at the patron records. First, the gender and the age group codes. There are less than 1% of the patrons where the gender is unknown, so the majority are coded as either female or male. The age group codes are child, young adult, adult, and senior. These codes are updated on a monthly basis using the data from the birth date in the user's record to make sure they're as accurate as possible. When I look at gender and age, I realize that we've known for years that about 60% of all of library patrons are female. What I don't know is if that's true across all age categories or across all of the libraries in the district. So first I looked at the age categories, comparing the percentage of female to male patrons in each age category. And I found a few significant facts. Well, the adult patrons are 60% female, matching the overall total. When I look at the child and the young adult, 48% are male, so significantly higher than the other groups. I'm not sure of the implications, though. Does that mean that males stop coming to the library when they become adults? Or the library collections or services are not meeting their needs? Is it an indication that adult female patrons are the main library card holders for their household and check out books for their children, spouses, parents, or partners? This would be another area that would be really useful to do further study and analysis and see if the types of materials can help shed light on which is true. But it may be more useful for planning programs and purchasing materials that would appeal to male audiences as well. Then one more aspect of the data, the home library, and I grouped them in a tree map using Tableau. And I put first the home library, and then the gender, and then the age code. And when I looked at the chart, I could see that roughly the proportions are the same across the library district. This would be great to look at interactively online, where the viewer could actually hover over each data element and see the values and really explore it further. But it's really interesting because it shows our entire district, and it really emphasizes the difference between the largest library and the very smallest library and the two bookmobiles. We really are quite diverse. Then I looked at the user status, their account. And users are typically okay, delinquent, in collections or blocked, and barred. And I had a little bit of fun with this bubble diagram. I used the traffic light colors to indicate that okay patrons are good to go if they have no outstanding transactions or bills to pay. Warning for the delinquent patrons, they can still go, but they have unresolved issues that they need to take care of on their cards. And then patrons who are blocked or in collections are in pink or red, and these patrons need to resolve these issues before they can use the library or check out materials. And we have a very small group of barred patrons who are not allowed to come into the library, mainly due to conduct issues. Then I moved to the items out analysis. The big question I considered was, does the data of the items out show the same pattern for gender as the overall patron records, where 59% of the patrons are female? Will 59% of the items out be out to female patrons? That was my big question. And I was quite surprised by the answer. I expected that women would account for more of the items out than men, but what I found was that it's actually overwhelmingly a majority of the items are checked out by female cardholders, 74% in fact, and 59% of patrons in general are female. I used a pie chart or two pie charts to illustrate the difference, because in this case, normally I wouldn't have used a pie chart, but in this case it's really dramatic, and this shows a little bit of the drama. But again, I don't know if this means that women are checking out materials for other family members, or if our collection is primarily keyed to adult females. A further analysis of this will also help. Then I looked at checkouts, and this is the number of items checked out by age group and gender in a bar chart, and the pink is for the female and the blue is for the male. And you can see that the biggest group, the adult females, actually have 52% of all items checked out. So over half of items checked out are checked out to adult female, perhaps reinforcing the opinion that they're checking out materials for people other than themselves. Then I turned a number of items out. Our library has a limit of 50 items out at a time per person. Our staff have debated this hotly for the last several years, wondering if this is adequate, and a number of our staff members want this to be raised because they're concerned that it's not meeting most patrons' needs. So when I looked at it, what I discovered is that most patrons, in fact, are having their needs met, and very few people have more than 10 items out. The limit doesn't need to be raised. Most people have 1 to 10 items out. We can stop debating. Then I went to renewals and overdue items. I wondered if there was any relationship between the number of renewals and overdues. Is our 5 renewal limit enough? And what groups of patrons have the highest overdue rates? What I found is that very few patrons are actually taking advantage of the 5 renewals, and this may be due to the fact that we don't have overdue fines, so there's very little consequence for not renewing, or it could be because it's not well publicized among our patrons, or maybe they're just fast readers. What I also saw was that most overdue items have 0 renewals, so this might be due to the fact that these items have holds and can't be renewed. Again, that's something that I could explore further in another study. And finally, I looked at the percentage of items out, or the percentage overdue by age group. So in each of these, I can see that the seniors actually have the fewest overdue items, and young adults have the highest percentage of overdue items, which actually is not that surprising. What I plan to do next is share my analysis with our administrative team and do more analysis in the future, drilling down deeper, doing the analysis again in the future to see if there are any changes. And that concludes my study of library users and items out. Thank you for listening.